Today, a peek behind the curtain to see what I bring to set as a professional photographer and motion director. Hi, my name is Christopher Malcolm. I'm a Los Angeles-based commercial photographer and director. Now, of course, the term commercial photographer can mean multiple things. In my case, I create advertising and different kind of image assets for mostly fitness and activewear brands so they can use them in their advertising campaigns. So instead of selling directly to the end user, like say, for example, a headshot photographer or a wedding photographer might, my business is more B2B. So essentially, companies come to me, they hire me, they pay my day rate, and then essentially on top of that, they then license my intellectual property that they then use to help sell their products around the world. In my case, those products are mostly aimed at athletes, armchair athletes, or just normal folks trying to get in shape. Anyone who makes health a priority. I don't say that to pitch my services to you, but I say that instead to give you a frame of reference, because what a professional photographer has in his or her kit is highly dependent on what they shoot, how they shoot, who they shoot for. So some of these things will apply to you, some of these things won't apply to you, but I just want to give you kind of a framework of where I'm coming from. A still life photographer, for example, is going to have a completely different set of tools in his or her bag than, say, for example, someone who shoots Formula One race cars traveling around the track at full speed every day. That goes for cameras and lenses, but it also goes for lights, modifiers, and all the other accessories that you may or may not have in your kit. Your style also has a lot to do with what's in your bag. Some photographers just shoot with natural light. Other photographers back up the entire grip truck and make sure to use every single thing on it before they leave the set. So that too will affect what's in your bag as a professional photographer. In this series of videos, I'll talk about the tools needed in order to accomplish the job as a professional photographer. But nothing on any of these lists, aside from, I suppose, the camera itself, could be deemed essential. In other words, if you have a camera, you're good to go. All the rest of the stuff is up to you. These are just the tools that I use. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to break this series up into multiple videos so you can watch them at your leisure. Since we're talking about gear, well, you're going to need something to hold it in. So in episode 1, we're going to talk about the bags themselves. As always, I've included timestamps in the description below, so if there's a specific topic that you're interested in, you can just skip ahead. So without further ado, let's get to it. As any photographer out there knows, bags can be a bit of an obsession with us. Almost every photographer I know has at least a dozen bags in his or her closet. And every one of those bags is almost perfect, but not quite. Just like cameras, we always try to convince ourselves that there's that one perfect bag out there that's going to do everything. And just like cameras, it never happens. My current main bag is the Tenbus Roadie 2 HDSLR video camera backpack. As you would guess from the title, it is in fact a backpack. And most importantly, it's sized exactly to fit within the carry-on regulations on any domestic air flight. I always carry on my gear if possible, but still it's deceptively roomy. Every time I think I've hit the limit, I find a new pocket and I start shoving more stuff in there and more stuff in there. And when you're constantly shoving more and more things into your camera bag though, it does get heavy and it doesn't have wheels. Tenbus does make a version that does have wheels. In fact, that's the camera I thought I was actually purchasing when I got this one. But it ended up, I made a mistake, but I was buying it used though, and so I was getting a crazy deal, so I ended up buying it anyway, and I love the bag. But if it did have a couple wheels, when I wanted to sit it down, that would be fantastic. Of course, the advantage of having a backpack versus, say, for example, just a rolling hard case is portability for me. Now I know that sounds crazy because I just explained how it doesn't have wheels, but because I shoot activewear, I often find myself shooting in strange locations. So I'll need to hike up a hill to get to set, or we'll be on a mountaintop or on a beach or in some kind of terrain where the idea of just rolling the cart across it doesn't quite work out so well. So in those cases, it's a lot easier to just throw it on my back, head out to the set, and I'll be good to go. But that doesn't mean that I don't love me a Pelican. I have 5 Pelican cases so far of varying sizes. Every time I invest in a new system, first question I always ask myself is, do I need a Pelican for this? Do I need a Pelican for this? For those of you who don't know what a Pelican is, they're these hard rolling cases. They're built like tanks. And basically it would take a rocket launcher to be able to get through that hard case and to your equipment. The Pelican 1510 is pretty much a staple for me. It's the one that's built, again, perfectly sized so that it can travel on an airplane, and it can be a carry-on, so it can fit in the overhead, and I think it actually fits underneath the seat as well. Always carry on your gear. I have the 1510 in a couple of varieties, some with the soft dividers in the middle. I also have the ones with the foam pull and pluck that you can kind of customize to your own equipment. The pull and pluck is great because it holds your equipment in place and it can't really bounce around within the case and potentially get damaged. The downside to the pull and pluck is that you really need to know what you're going to put in before you start customizing the foam, because once you've started pulling out foam and throwing it other places, if you later on decide that you want to repurpose that case, you're going to need to either be really smart about how you utilize the existing foam, or potentially just buy a whole new set of foam which you can put in there, but that usually ends up costing almost as much as the case itself. I have one that used to be my main case for my Fuji X series, but then got kind of repurposed to be kind of the place where I put all my lightly used lenses, lenses that I want to keep and I use for certain purposes, but I don't necessarily have to have on me at all times. They all go in that case, it shuts up, and then that way, they're all protected in case I, fall on it one night. Just as a small aside, a friend of mine is a cinematographer, and once he accidentally backed over one of the Pelican cases with one of the trucks, gear didn't know the difference. My own Pelican cases often pull secondary duty as footstools, so whenever I need to change a light bulb or turn off an annoying fire alarm at 2 o'clock in the morning, yeah, that's what I reach for. I also have various larger size Pelican cases for my lights. So like the bigger strobes, I put all those in Pelican cases. Now those are not going to be small enough to fit as a carry-on, of course, on a plane. But of course the upside is that if I did have to put it on, stow it underneath, again, it's built like a tank. So, it would probably do more damage to the baggage handler than the baggage handler could do to it. I've bruised my own shins more than once trying to move that case from one side of the room to the other. Just as a side note, and as a matter of practicality, usually when I'm traveling, I like to travel with the cameras and lenses and stuff like that. The bigger things, a lot of times I'll try to, if possible, I'll try to rent on location. So rather than try to deal with the hassle of getting them on the plane, figuring out if the airline has media rate, and if possible, let's say I'm doing a job in Portland or in New York City, they all have rental houses there. So I'll travel with my camera gear because I like having my own camera. But for like larger strobes, C-stands, stuff like that, I'll pick those up locally. And just on the job, because I'm going to bill the equipment to the client one way or the other. But rather than billing them for equipment travel, for equipment travel fee, basically, I will be billing them just for, local rental. And it all works out. So that's usually a good solution if you can do that. Otherwise, Pelican to the rescue. The third case I bring with me is a massive Tamarack rolling case. I'd give you the model number, but honestly, I bought it so long ago that I don't remember what the model number is. And when I went to look it up on the Tamarack website, it's not even there anymore. I don't even think they sell anything similar. But the bag is at least 15 years old and still kicking. So I guess that says something about Tamarack's quality. Basically, the bag has two main features. One, that it's very, very big, and two, that it has wheels. It's not a hard case, so I don't put like lights or cameras or things that can break inside of it. It's padded, but it's not really a hard case. Instead, that's where I put all the grip equipment. So soft boxes, reflectors, gels, things that are useful and I need to have on set, but that aren't gonna break. So if that bag falls down the stairs, I can still shoot. In fact, even if it did fall down the stairs, I don't think there's anything in that case that would actually look any different at the end of the fall than it did at the beginning of the fall. With the exception of the little Bluetooth speaker that I bring with me to set all the time, which actually just recently broke itself after about 10 years. So if any of you have a suggestion for a really, preferably small Bluetooth speaker that puts out a great sound, it can fill up a studio, but not take up a lot of room in the bag, put that suggestion in the comment section, because I might be in the market for something. The fourth and last bag that I carry with me on most shoots is the Tenbus Lux 21. It is also a backpack, and unsurprisingly, it also is perfectly sized to be a carry-on. Perhaps you notice a theme here. Except that this backpack differs from the traditional camera bag, both in how it opens and how it's organized. Sometimes with a normal camera bag, that opens from the side, you sit it standing up, and then you go to open it, and then if you're not careful, whatever's inside can kind of fall out. And that might be a lens, and that would probably not be a good thing. You can, of course, sit it on his face and open up, but it doesn't always sit perfectly still, and sometimes it can just be a pain. Well, the Cinelux is what they call a doctor bag. So you have to think of like a small town doctor going house to house doing visits. He's got his little bag with all his stuff in it, and he sits it down, and then he pops it open, and then all the stuff is just kind of you just reach down in and grab the stethoscope or the scalpel or whatever it is that the doctor needs to do his job. The great thing about it is that, once you open it up, you can see everything that's in the bag very clearly. You don't have to go searching for anything. It's very easy to just kind of reach in and grab what you need. It's a great way to operate. No pun intended. It doesn't have the same number of endless hidden pockets as my main camera bag, but I use the Cinelux mainly as a video bag. So my C200 goes in there, and one of the big things about it is that it's tall enough that I could fit the C200 in there with the handle attached, because I hate having to detach it every time I want to use it. It's just a pain. I also don't have to take off the lens, because the Cinelux has this nice little accessory that just sits basically in the bottom of the bag, so that when you sit the camera in the bag, the lens, which otherwise would be unsupported, basically sits on top of a pillow. So there's not a lot of wiggle room when it's in the bag, which is great, because the whole point of the C200 for me is that I can operate it very quickly. I can just grab it out of my bag and go and move on with my life. And so this bag makes it very easy for me to do that, because you just reach in, reach out, and you're already set up to shoot. There's also more room than you would think in the side pockets. So usually I have like my boom mic in there, some lavaliers, different cabling, accessories, other things like small lights, headphones, things that you need to shoot, kind of can all fit in there, and it works out well. So those are all the bags. Well, at least the main bags. But I'm guessing you might be even more interested in what's inside the bag. Well, we're going to talk about that in the next episode of this series, where I really dive into my main camera bag and take it apart piece by piece and show you what's in there, what I usually use, what's in there just because it needs to be in there, just in case for a blue moon. We'll really pick that apart. But this is just episode 1. If you want to see episode 2 or future episodes, be sure to hit that subscribe button, as I'll come out with these on a fairly regular basis. For this channel, I like to talk about photography, videography, the business of photography, the business of filmmaking. We talk about gear a little bit, but really, keep in mind that, I've named specific pieces of gear that I use. I've named specific bags that I use. You don't have to use those bags. You've got your own equipment. A trash bag will do if you're careful enough. I have actually brought a camera to set once in a plastic grocery bag. And as always, your gear doesn't make you a photographer. Your art makes you a photographer. So until we meet again, let me know what you think in the comment section. What kind of bags are you using? Do you have a suggestion? Do you have the perfect bag? If you finally found the perfect bag that everybody's looking for, be sure to add that to the comments. I'm sure everybody would love to hear about it. What have you found is the best way to travel with gear when you're going on an out-of-town assignment? I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you guys are working on. But until then, see you in the next video. Happy shooting.